Hello and welcome to Who Wore It Better, where I review Raw and Smackdown back to back and try and figure out which show won for the week. Well, what we all kind of assumed was going to happen was made official on Monday morning when they announced that the Raw Women's Championship Triple Threat match, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, is going to be the main event of WrestleMania at MetLife Stadium. It's the first time, of course, that a women's match has been the WrestleMania main event, and I think it's a very, it's the best call. It's a great call by the company here. What's great about this choice is it's the easy choice. You know, I guess you could say Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston is a very close second in terms of what's the best main event angle right now in the company. But the women's match trumps it because it's so much more build to this. Like, it's been going back ever since last SummerSlam when Becky Lynch turned heel on a babyface Charlotte. You know, Kofi, Daniel Bryan is nice. We already saw it 5 years ago, though, at WrestleMania 30 with Daniel Bryan in the babyface position, though. And this one's just, the women's match feels like, despite the bungling they've had with the build in like between the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber and Fastlane, I feel like they corrected the ship right around Fastlane time. And now it's like it's back to being, you know, the best, most convincing, most compelling angle right now in the company. And so I think it deserves to be in the main event spot. This is not a thing of pandering. This is not like, oh, feminism, whatever. It's the right choice. It's the most interesting angle, and it deserves to be the main event. Speaking of which, Ronda Rousey opens Raw. She gets on the mic and says to everyone, "You're welcome," for the women's match being the main event. She drops the mic, goes to walk away, comes back, picks the mic up again, says something, drops it again, picks it up again, says something, drops it. You know what, Ronda? You really kill the magic of a mic drop when you have to pick the microphone back up after you've already dropped it. So then Charlotte and Becky come out and they say their piece. There's going to be a beat the clock challenge. What's going to happen is all three of these women are going to take on individual members of the Riot Squad in singles action, and whoever has the fastest time wins. What do they win? Momentum. Whee! Whoop-de-doo! Who cares about momentum? Like, this was such, you know, it was an exhibition for the three women to show off their skills. Fine, you could just bill it like that. Beat the clock makes it seem like there's some kind of prize at the end, like there's always been with that kind of situation. Like in the past, a beat the clock challenge has always been for like #1 contendership or something. This, you know, you could have had something like, oh, the winner of the beat the clock challenge can't be pinned or made to submit in the first like 10 minutes. They have immunity for the first 10 minutes of the match or something. Then after that, anything goes. Like, but this was just kind of like, oh, momentum, this very intangible kind of meaningless thing in the grand scheme of things, especially in wrestling, where everything's a work, as Ronda Rousey might tell you. So I thought the whole idea of the beat the clock challenge was weird. You could have just made an exhibition and called it good. Anyway, it's pretty straightforward. Ronda Rousey kills Sarah Logan pretty quickly. Charlotte versus Ruby Riott. She's got Ruby in the figure 8, but the time expires. She had 1:25 to work with. And so I guess Ruby in the end kind of looks the strongest here because she's the only one who's not actually defeated. Because then it's Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan. Liv capitalizes on a downed Becky because after Charlotte couldn't beat the clock, she kicks Becky in the head. No one really cares. And so then Becky ends up beating Liv with seconds to spare. And, you know, it sure makes us not care about the Riot Squad because if they all get beaten within like 90 seconds a piece, you know, it was, you know, just kind of a meh way for them to follow up on this big announcement, in my opinion, of the, oh, main event, women's match, great. Now let's have, okay, this kind of match. And then they announced later in the show, next week you're going to see all three of those women in the main event take on the Riot Squad in 6-woman tag action. So, hey, are you ready for the same 3 squash matches you just saw in triplicate? Our next match is Finn Balor versus Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley in a handicap match once again. Since Finn beat Lio in their last handicap match to win the IC Championship in the first place, now Finn needs to beat them again in order to get a match against Bobby Lashley for the title at WrestleMania. One thing I saw, I forgot who pointed this out on social media the other day, but it seems like Finn Balor is always the first person to show up after the opening segment of Raw. Mr. 820 himself, Finn Balor. Lio says he's not clear to compete because Braun beat him up a few weeks ago, so Jinder Mahal is his replacement, and basically now it's 5-on-1. It's Jinder and the Sings, Bobby and Lio, all versus Finn Balor here. It's Finn versus the world, but he is able to overcome. He beats Jinder Mahal with the coup de grace to win, and so he'll be facing an irate Bobby Lashley for the championship at Mania. Bobby takes out his anger by taking out Jinder and those poor Sing boys. Up next, Blackachet versus the Revival in non-title action. Very good match. It ends when Aleister hits a double Black Mass on both members of the Revival. 6:30, sunrise, sunset, the Revival lose. Drew McIntyre shows up and he wants an answer from Roman Reigns about his WrestleMania challenge, but Drew says he hopes that Roman does not accept the challenge. He says, "Think of your family, Joe the man, Joe the father. You almost died once before and I'll kill you in the ring." Roman Reigns shows up and says, "Roman accepts your challenge," but Joe the man says, "Fuck off, buddy." They have a big brawl. Drew hits Roman Reigns with a low blow that just takes his soul away. Ouch, right in the leukemia. And Drew takes him down, stands very tall. They're booking Drew as a very naughty boy in this scenario. By the way, ouch, right in the leukemia, Tuesdays at 8 on CBS. After commercial break, Drew's confronted by Dean Ambrose, who says, contrary to popular belief, he has not been exterminated, and challenges Drew later in the night to a last man standing match, playa. Up next, Sasha Banks versus Natalya with Bayley and Beth Phoenix in their respective corners. I thought it was interesting because they were in Boston on Monday night, yet the ring announcer did not say that Sasha was from Boston. Kind of get the hometown pop, like you normally do, but we will see something like that in a little bit. Early in the match, you see a Mexican surfboard, which was very nice between those two. Nia and Tamina run in and ruin all the fun. Beth Phoenix gets in the ring, cleans house, and so much like I predicted last week, it seems that we are now going to have that 4 corners match for the Women's Tag Team Championship at Mania. These 3 teams and the Iconics from SmackDown, which I think is a great story for the Iconics, by the way, because they're 2 childhood friends who came up in the business together. They had the same dream, made it through NXT, got to the main roster last year, and now within their first year on the main roster, they're going to be in a championship match at WrestleMania. How freaking cool is that if you're the Iconics? After the match, they announced the Hart Foundation are going into the Hall of Fame this year. So boy, year of the 2-time Hall of Famers, huh? You already have Shawn Michaels with DX, Booker T with Harlem Heat, and now Bret Hart as a 2-time Hall of Famer as well. Any more we want to throw in here before the final deadline? As for the team itself, it seems they're only inducting the original Hart Foundation of Bret and Jim Neidhart. It doesn't seem like Jimmy Hart is really part of it. Maybe he'll induct them. Who knows? But they're not including the 97 Hart Foundation with, Owen and the Bulldog and Brian Pillman, that sort of Hart Foundation. I think they deserve to be inducted as a team. I think they were a great tag team of their time. Great combination because Bret was a technical guy and Jim was the powerhouse. I think that Jim, on his own merits, I don't know if he would get inducted. I think the timing is because, he passed away last year, so now it seems like the appropriate time. It was very touching to see the emotion on Natalya's face after the video package. It seemed very genuine to see her father, being enshrined and glorified in this way, which I think he deserves. His personal demons, I think, affected a lot of his potential as a wrestler, but he was still a very solid worker when he was working, especially in his prime. So Hart Foundation absolutely deserved to go in. Backstage, Kurt Angle's being interviewed. He says he wants to retire on his own terms, and he says he will be ready for Baron Corbin at WrestleMania. And that verbiage right there, it's very subtle, but it also does a great job in building up Baron Corbin by saying, I'm going to be ready for Baron Corbin. He's not discounting Baron Corbin's ability. He's making him sound like a legitimate threat by saying, by WrestleMania, I will be ready. I have trained for this. I'll be ready for him. So that, I think, adds a little bit of credibility to Corbin here. Corbin does walk in and mock Kurt for a while. He's basically a big old jerk. And after his whole big speech, Kurt's retort is, screw you. Ooh. Time now for the moment of bliss. The more I think about it, it's actually kind of cool that Alexa Bliss is going to be the host of WrestleMania on the same show that the women are main eventing. I just keep thinking about if she were healthy now, where would she be on the card, in relation to Ronda, Becky, and Charlotte at this point? Where on the totem pole, where in the pecking order would Alexa Bliss be were she healthy? So, she's in a place of prominence as the host. She's not forgotten. It's actually pretty nice. Braun Strowman comes out as the guest, and he says he wants to beat the bejesus out of Colin Jost and Michael Che. The 2 SNL stars show up live via satellite. I love Colin Jost. He's the most subtle, trash-talkingest heel of all time because he puts on the Yankees hat in Boston. He basically calls Braun dumb. He can't chew his own food or tie his shoes or whatever. It was just so funny the way he was so subtle, kind of casually throwing out these insults. And it was just, it's hilarious to me. So basically, Braun challenges Colin and Michael to be a part of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which I think is hilarious. I think it's great. Drew Carey finally gets some successors in the annals of history. He will not be alone as far as his category of celebrities in battle royals, what have you. My favorite part about this whole thing is that on SmackDown the next night, they showed the match graphic for the battle royal. It's just Colin Jost, Michael Che, and Braun Strowman. No one else matters. As far as I know, there's the only 3 guys in this battle royal, and that to me is absolutely hysterical. Throughout the night, we saw a few vignettes of Elias wandering Manhattan, plugging his upcoming musical appearance at WrestleMania. At this one, he's outside Madison Square Garden. He's confused for a homeless person. Then we go to Baron Corbin versus Apollo Crews. Corbin gets the Boston shout-out from the ring announcer. He's called Boston's favorite son. I love the heel gets that and not the baby face to get the hometown pop. Corbin beats Crews in pretty short order with the end of days. Hits it again after the match to really put the exclamation point on that. So it's a nice recovery for him after he lost last week. So got to make Corbin look strong for Kurt Angle because Kurt will be ready for Corbin. Seth Rollins shows up and he says he wants to be a champion who can inspire people and that Brock Lesnar does not inspire people. He calls Lesnar a bully. Ooh, that's the worst you can come up with, Seth. He says, with an army of people behind me, I am unstoppable. We are going to march to the gates of Suplex City. I guarantee you that's going to be the motif of his entrance for Mania. Just a big, on the LED screen in the background, just a big army of like silhouettes on fire. Paul Heyman interrupts, and then he starts mocking people who use the phrase thoughts and prayers, which I think is funny because, like, at least in my exposure and in my circle, like, no one takes that phrase seriously. Like, no one genuinely asks for thoughts and prayers. It's always kind of a mocking thing. People take the piss out of the phrase thoughts and prayers. So for him to mock, like, what is presumably, like, Seth's our generation for saying that phrase, it's not really an edgy thing for him to say. And honestly, after that point, I cannot pay attention to a damn thing Heyman is saying because, like, it's, like, full-on Kevin Dunn here with the camera cuts. Like, they're cutting, and I don't know if it's been like this, and I just now noticed it or what, but, like, it's cutting in between, like, sentences, in the middle of sentences, in the middle of words. It's cutting around, like, two different shots of Heyman and Seth. It was literally, I was getting nauseous watching that. So, basically, Heyman says his piece, Seth follows him up the ramp, and Heyman gets spooked. Seth says some strong words, stands tall at the end. So, you know, it sucks because Seth doesn't really have much to work off of with this feud with Lesnar because he's there so infrequently, which makes Kofi Bryan so much more compelling is because they're on the show every week and Lesnar's not. So, and if you can also compare it to the women's title match with Ronda, Becky, and Charlotte, they're all there every week. So it's like, you know, Lesnar not being there really takes it takes the edge off of this angle here because Seth doesn't have anyone to really work off of except for Heyman every week. As part of his ongoing farewell tour, Kurt Angle takes on Samoa Joe, and I'm like, yes, put that shit right in my veins. Like, I will admit, I've never really watched that much TNA, but I have watched a lot of the Kurt Samoa Joe stuff from TNA. I loved the chemistry they had together. This was a very good match, much in that same vein. You know, not given the same time as those other matches in TNA, but still very good. I love that it opens with a headbutt by Joe to Angle. It's very symbolic because the first thing Kurt Angle does in TNA is he headbutts Samoa Joe, so he finally gets his receipt. Kurt counters the clutch with a pinfall and gets the surprise win, and so Joe's very shocked by this. It makes Kurt, you know, look wily still, kind of like he's still scrappy. He may be older. He's not the man he once was, but he can still find ways to beat you, and he did that against Samoa Joe. Not a great look for Joe in the grand scheme of things because, I mean, he is the U.S. champion. He's kind of in this feud with Rey, which, by the way, haven't really been seeing the two of them interact that much in the last couple of weeks since we had this match announced. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to hurt Joe that much because this thing with Angle is kind of a special case. Triple H comes out to cut a promo on Batista. I really enjoyed this promo of his more than, say, the one he had a couple weeks ago on Raw, the one where he's like, you're not going to see the character, you're going to see the man, because this one didn't have that kind of lifting back the curtain kind of thing. It was just more of what Triple H, I like what I did enjoy from that previous promo, where he kind of blends the humor and the serious subject matter. He did more of that here. I think it was handled better than that first promo. I liked that he made fun of Batista for being the deacon hanging out with Devon Dudley and saying that you only quit because he couldn't beat John Cena. He pulls like a lawyer's note and he kind of makes fun of the whole give me what I want that became this huge meme when Batista said that stuff a few weeks ago. Give me what I want, what I really, really want. Spice Girls reference from Triple H in 2019. Who would have ever guessed? And so basically the letter says that Triple H must put his career on the line if he's to face Batista at Mania, and Triple H accepts. So basically, if he wins, he's going to wrestle maybe once a year, and if he loses, he's not going to wrestle at all, I guess. But still, good blend of serious and funny stuff. This is a really strong Triple H promo. Last man standing match between Drew McIntyre and Dean Ambrose. It's a knocky-draggy. I don't want to bore you with the details, but ultimately, Drew wins after he puts Dean through a table, then hits the Claymore. So he wins here once again. How many jobs could a Dean job of a job Dean could job? And by the way, and Drew is just looking like an absolute killing machine these last few weeks, having totally destroyed the Shield killed the last several weeks. And again, 2 in one night, the twofer. Roman Reigns earlier and then Dean Ambrose in this match. Over on SmackDown, the rumors are swirling that the New Day threatened to quit the company in response to the poor treatment Kofi has received these last several weeks. They call out Mr. McMahon, who shows up, but before he can really say anything, Daniel Bryan and Rowan make their way out. Daniel Bryan with a terrific line saying that, Vince can just create another novelty act called Fresh Afternoon, and they can throw waffles in the crowd, and they'll be even more popular than the New Day. And Xavier calls Daniel a hypocrite. Vince starts making weird noises and basically saying that the New Day can earn Kofi a match at WrestleMania if they win a tag team gauntlet match. So, second verse, same as the first. The reason I got so riled up about the gauntlet match last week was because I felt like, how can you possibly top a gauntlet match as far as like the last hurdle you need to jump to qualify for a championship match at WrestleMania? It seems the gauntlet match is kind of the be-all, end-all. And so for them to end on a screw job kind of sucked, but here their answer to that question, how can you top a gauntlet match, is to double the numbers and have a tag team gauntlet. And okay, that's cool, I guess, but I feel you've really kind of killed the impact and the gravity of a gauntlet match by having 3 in the last month and a half, 2 in the last 2 weeks. Becky Lynch is interviewed backstage next, and she wonders what Charlotte Flair is even doing in that triple threat match. She's a third wheel, she doesn't belong there. As she's talking, Charlotte's music plays, and Charlotte makes her entrance at ringside and says she'll show everybody just why she deserves to be there. So then she has a match with Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Okay, kind of comes from out of nowhere. They have a great match. I think what they do here in the ring was great stuff. I loved it. Then Charlotte wins with the figure 8. And hold on, what the hell just happened? Charlotte's now the SmackDown Women's Champion going into WrestleMania. Lot to unpack here. First, man, I feel bad for Asuka. What? I don't know who she pissed off. All I'm going to say is I'm glad I didn't change my tune and walk back what I said about Asuka's treatment in 2018 just by virtue of her winning the title at TLC. Charlotte winning the championship is kind of pointless. The triple threat match does not need Charlotte as SmackDown Women's Champion. I would have liked to have seen Asuka defend her championship on the big event, WrestleMania. Is there even going to be a Women's Battle Royal at Mania? I've heard nothing about it, and so I don't know what Asuka or the rest of the ladies in the roster are going to be doing with their time. Charlotte needs another championship. Like, I need a kick in the dick. It's excessive. She's an 8-time champion now. She has the record. Okay. At least it gives Charlotte something to fall back on if she loses the match at WrestleMania, because, hey, she'll still be a champion at the end, so good for her. And, I guess, and Felix brought this up to me. We were talking on the phone about this earlier tonight, that this could, assuming Becky wins at Mania and Sasha and Bayley retain the tag titles of that show, you could have the visual of all 4 of the horsewomen with championships at WrestleMania. Yes, that'd be a fine moment, and the picture on Twitter would get 1 million likes. What a disappointing run Asuka had as women's champion, because she won the belt under circumstances in which she played not one factor, because it was Ronda Rousey who cost, Becky and Charlotte the match. She had maybe one good defense in her entire run from winning it in December to now, and then she loses it to Charlotte in this kind of match with no build, no hype, so now she's 0-2 against Charlotte. And yeah, last year's Women's Royal Rumble winner, and she's nothing for her for Mania this year. What is going on? Kurt Angle's fighting all his best TNA rivals this week as he takes on AJ Styles Tuesday night. Sounds great on paper. Unfortunately, the match doesn't really go anywhere. They trade submissions a little bit. Randy Orton comes in, hits AJ with the RKO. The match ends in a DQ. Angle hits a lousy-looking angle slam on Orton, and that's pretty much how it ends. So, kind of a flat segment here for both of these angles. They got not only Kurt's retirement tour building up to Corbin, but also the Orton Styles build. This one's kind of, this one was just kind of like a lateral move for me, if anything. The Miz comes out and he proposes to Shane McMahon that their match at WrestleMania be a Falls Count Anywhere match. Shane's music plays, and out come a bunch of indie guys in security shirts, followed by the Colognes and Shelton Benjamin and Sanity. And I seen these guys. Remember a couple weeks ago when Shelton Benjamin was on Raw fighting Seth Rollins and you never saw him again? So then Shane talks about how good it felt to beat up Miz in front of his dad, and how good it'll feel to beat up the Miz again, falls count anywhere, which admittedly is a match I think Shane will excel at. I think the wackier the stipulations, I think the more Shane actually thrives because he can do the wacky, crazy stuff outside the ring or whatnot. So he says that the Miz's dad's biggest mistake was impregnating the Miz's mom. Miz, I guess you'd say. And at that point, Miz can stand no more. He comes out there, he starts beating up the security single-handedly, gets into a fight with the other goons, gets beat down by Sanity at first, and then he fights them off. So Miz all by himself takes out all of Sanity, which is a great look for Sanity. Aren't they so glad they got called up? But I will say, we're definitely seeing a side of the Miz here that we have never seen before. Even when the last time he was a babyface, like being mentored by Flair, like he was never looking this fired up and like this strong. And I like where we're going with this babyface Miz. Main event time is the Tag Team Gauntlet match. Xavier and Big E must fight for Kofi's chances at WrestleMania. If they win here tonight, then Kofi will finally get his match. The first team up is Anderson and Gallows. They're taken out almost immediately. Nice seeing you guys. Nakamura up next, and holy crap, just thinking about a year ago this time, thinking where Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka, and to a lesser extent Rusev, were all at this time last year. Boy, oh boy, I don't know whether to laugh or to cry. Nakamura are defeated by Up, Up, Down, Down. The Bar are up next, and like the quality of the fighting goes up with each team because Anderson and Gallows, like whatever. Then against Shinsuke and Rusev, it gets better. The Bar is great stuff. Ultimately, Xavier rolls up Sheamus for the win, and what do we get? Another big heel beatdown after the elimination. This time they put Big E through the table. Please come up with a better plot point. But actually, it did a nice little spin on it, a nice little twist this time, because the Usos come out, the only babyface tag team in this entire gauntlet, by the way. They come out and they see like Xavier, crouching over Big E, holding him in his arms and everything. And the Usos, say, you have our respect. They're putting Kofi over huge, and they say, we forfeit. So nice little spin. Did not see that coming. It was a cool move. So backstage, Daniel Bryan and Rowan see what just happened. They start freaking out, throwing shit against the walls of their locker room, and they are the final team to take on Xavier and Big E. Big old fight. Xavier and E look very good here. Big E dumps the announce table on Rowan. I love the effort he takes in lifting it up and dumping it on Rowan as if it's made of granite. Like when you see those things break, they look at the farthest thing from heavy. And so it's just like to see them like, oh, slow tilt over. Looks so hilarious. But Rowan is the legal man, so he's counted out after being pinned by the table. So the New Day win. Kofi is vindicated. He gets his championship match and everything. The locker room come out to surround the ring and support him, including some referees, which could lead to some interesting like foreshadowing to, biased referees down the line or something like that. I think that, again, I think it would have been more powerful if Kofi won the gauntlet match himself last week and just left it at that. But I think it's kind of nice to see the power of friendship and brotherly love overcoming the odds and helping Kofi win. And among all the wrestlers that were out there supporting Kofi and also in the back watching was Ali. Not Mustafa Ali, just Ali. That's something I've neglected to mention up until now. But yeah, of all the recent name changes, going from Mustafa Ali to just Ali, that one's going to take a little, that's probably the most getting used to out of all the recent changes. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, Raw or Smackdown. This one was another tough one for me because I think both shows did a pretty good job with WrestleMania build. Ultimately, I am going to go with SmackDown as the winner this week. I think they did I say they did the right thing with having the New Day win the gauntlet match, but I still maintain the fact they shouldn't have gotten this far at all. Again, how can you top a gauntlet match? The answer to me is not have a tag team gauntlet match because you've already just had a gauntlet match. You kind of you've kind of blown it at that point with me. But still, it was a satisfying ending. Finally, Kofi gets what he wants. Charlotte versus Asuka was a great match, but boy, when you look at it, from afar, wow, what was the point of Asuka winning that championship when she did diddly dick with it? That was just something that kind of stuck in my craw. The Miz Shane segment was also very strong. But yeah, SmackDown was a stronger show overall. I think Raw just had a little more filler, a little fewer kind of misfires and stuff. The whole beat the clock challenge with the ladies, I thought was just a really weird framing device for that, and I don't think it matched the impact of the announcement they made on Monday. They kind of tamped it down for me at least. Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe was a great match for what it was. The Last Man Standing with Drew and Dean was great. And I can't believe the SNL guys are going to be in the Battle Royal. That is a turn I did not expect them to take with this one. And I'm still laughing over it to this very day. Let me know what you thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below. And be sure to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick in the upper right hand corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.